Thanks, Scott. Hello, partners. Matt Genelin here, Solutions Architect with GitLab. I just got back from KubeCon 2023 in Chicago, Illinois, where I got to work the booth and show off 6 demos to people at our GitLab booth on the showroom floor. Today I want to show you some of those click-through demos that our GitLab Technical Marketing folks have put together that make me look like a hero and can make you look like a hero as well. The demos I'm going to show you are not really GitLab.com. So they are static versions of GitLab at some point in the past, and an astute observer will observe that they are not quite the same thing as GitLab.com. These are static pages, right? They're screenshots of what GitLab was when the demo was created. But if you're on the showroom floor and on a small screen in a noisy environment, and you only have maybe 2 minutes, maybe 3, to pitch GitLab and show off a feature that somebody has a question about, like I was at KubeCon 2023 last week, on a showroom floor in a booth with a small screen in a really noisy environment, and people come up to me and ask me for a demo of GitLab Workspaces, for example. I only have a minute or 2 of their attention. They're looking at the screen. I need to guide them with my fingers and sometimes the mouse. And they're looking at me, the screen, and the piece of swag they're going to get at the end of listening to me talk about GitLab. So I really have an audience that's not able to hear me very well, and I have an audience that's maybe somewhat interested in getting the general idea of where things are on the screen, but not exactly like nitty-gritty technical details about everything. These demos will seem a little strange over a webinar like we're doing right now, right? You'll see pretty clearly that this is an older web user interface of GitLab, but I do want to show you the power of how good these click-through demos are. What the heck is a click-through demo? A click-through demo is literally a screenshot of GitLab where certain parts of the screen have been put in little red boxes or clickable by our technical marketing team. It shows a very small single feature, something you can pitch in 2 or 3 minutes, and all the typing is done for you automatically as part of the demo, so you won't have to do any typing. In fact, if you get lost anywhere on the screen at any time in a click-through demo, you can use the arrow keys on your keyboard. So the right arrow key just moves forward in the demo, and the left arrow key goes back in case you get really lost. So literally, right down here, my right arrow key will just keep advancing through the demo, and my left arrow key will go backwards in case I get lost somewhere in my demo. I'm going to first show you what the demo looks like when it's all polished and finished. I'm going to show you a GitLab Workspaces demo, add an improvised talk track to it, and then I'll go back and show you the magic of how you can learn these demos and give them to your customers. First of all, where are the demos? I've put a number of links in a README here in a personal project in my personal workspace on GitLab.com. So GitLab.com/mgenelin@GitLab. That's all spelled out, MGENELIN@GITLAB. That is my personal group or namespace. /KubeCon 2023. And that is, of course, my project on GitLab here. There's nothing more than just a README file here with a number of clickable links, and each of these links in bigger text are click-through demos. Let me show you the GitLab Workspaces demo. So clicking on the GitLab Workspaces demo brings me to this page. And again, I'm just going to use my arrow keys to go to the right one. And I'm going to give this demo real quick to you here. GitLab Workspaces, what are they? They are an ephemeral, short-lived, temporary environment where a developer can develop code. I'm going to show you a Node Express JS application using NPM as the package manager and developing all of my code up on GitLab.com in a developer workspace, a temporary, ephemeral, short-lived workspace. Why would I need this? Okay, so let's say my company doesn't want to pay a bunch of money for endpoint security, or I've been given a really slow PC laptop or something like that, and I don't want to do development work locally. I want to do it all up on GitLab.com for security compliance, or maybe I have a really slow machine on my desktop. Those are all great reasons to use GitLab Workspaces. So let's check out the small development environment here. So a few prerequisites have already been done for me. I have a debfile.yaml defined here, which I won't get into, but it's present in this project. I also have a Kubernetes cluster already connected over here to under the infrastructure tab, so that my short-lived, ephemeral, temporary environment can be spun up on my own infrastructure and then spun back down again when I'm done with it. To configure or get started on a workspace, workspaces are unique to each developer. And so every developer gets their own workspace, a private sandbox to work in that's secure and safe. Because of that, we hide the workspaces up here under the hamburger menu because it's personal to you. I'm going to click the hamburger menu and click Your Work. That's going to bring me to my projects, and it'll change the navigation on the left-hand side and allow me to click on Workspaces. This brings up Workspaces in the main part of the dialog. I'm going to go all the way over to the upper right-hand side of the screen and click New Workspace. Here, I'm going to select the project I'm presently working on. Let me just type in Express to find my Node Express JS application I'm developing. I'm going to have to scroll down a little bit to find it. And here it is. My examples Node.js Express application. I'm going to select the cluster agent that I had already installed before we started this demo on my Kubernetes cluster. And I don't need this development environment for 24 hours. I'm just going to change that to 3 hours. I'm going to click Create Workspace, and it'll bring me back to the Workspaces screen. As you can see in the upper right part here, we have a little spinning going on, and now suddenly we have this blue link. The spinning was just the environment being spun up for me so I could do development. And the blue link is clickable, and will click and open a new tab so that I can get started on my remote development. Now, to developers, this is going to be pretty familiar to you. If you use VS Code as your integrated development environment or your IDE, look at what we have right here. This is GitLab's take on VS Code, literally with the GitLab source control plugin. Certainly the main screen's VS Code. On the left, you can see the file explorer, the little search hourglass, and of course, the revision code control things. So the types of things you're already familiar with working with VS Code on your laptop. To get started here, I'm going to make a small change as a developer and add a line to my server.js file. I'm just going to go ahead and add another link here to docs.gitlab.com and call it for workspaces documentation. So I'm just adding a link to my workspaces documentation in my little Node.js app. That's just a little web server is all it is. To test this, I can use the menu up here and go to Terminal, click New Terminal, which will open up literally a bash shell right here on my screen, just like I do on my local workstation. Normally, to start an npm server, I would type something like npm start. But whoops, oh no, I don't have the libraries installed that I need to correctly run my Node application. Well, the correct thing to do there is just type npm install. So my robot will type that for me. And as you can see, it's got a much faster internet connection than my machine does. And now I can just type npm start. Okay, so that'll start up a little server, Node.js web server running on port 3000. Now, normally, developers at this point would just go to localhost port 3000, right? We're not running on localhost. So how am I going to be able to see that server running, but it has to still be secure, right? Well, if you look up here at the top of the screen, there is this URL for the workspace that I'm developing in right now. It says 60,001-workspace, some numbers, some letters, .workspaces.gitlab.dev. So that's a workspace in GitLab. And it also tells me what project I'm working on, folders for projects, example, Node.js Express app. I can take that URL, copy that URL to my clipboard, create a new tab, paste that URL in, change that 60,001 to port 3000 because I want to keep my testing environment secure. We're not appending :3000 like we would on local development. Instead, we're putting it at the beginning of the URL here to put 3000 in, so I know I want to redirect that port to port 3000. And boom, port 3000 workspace blah 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 .workspaces.gitlab.dev. Here is an application that's running. Welcome to GitLab Workspaces Demo Node.js Express app. You can browse the 2 links that were there, or I can click the link I just added. Let's click the link I just added and see if it works correctly. Oh, it sure does. And that's it. I successfully spun up a workspace. I successfully added a line of code and no commits at all. I have tested that workspace by opening up a terminal, running a Node.js server, and then I saw the results of that Node.js server by clicking through the web interface and just simply going to port 3000 and hitting that server directly. A fully integrated development environment right there. End of demo, that's it. Okay, so that was a pretty impressive demo. What's more impressive is how quickly it is that you can learn how to do this demo and take it and deliver it yourself. It's now time for me, the magician, to reveal all my secrets. Here comes the rabbit, and here's how I did the magic. Here's all the secrets behind the scenes. When I click on the GitLab Workspaces demo, it's going to bring up a new tab for me. I believe that it's very distracting to most of my audiences to see 75 tabs open in my web browser. So I'm going to grab that tab, drag it down into its own window, and then just drag the window right back up again. All right, now my audience's eyeballs are going to stay focused on the only tab and the only thing that's on the screen, hopefully. And using my mouse or a laser pointer or my finger, if I'm in person, I can point at the screen where I want eyeballs to go. You'll notice that there's a big red box all of a sudden now around this Workspaces demo, this click-through demo. And when I gave it to you, I had pressed F2. I know it says F1. Ignore that. Ignore F1. That's the wrong key. F2 is the key you want to push. I had pressed F2, which made all the red boxes, the talk track, and everything disappear. That's the magic part. But if I push F2 again, the red box comes back. Again, I'm just going to use my keyboard here. I'm going to push the right arrow key right there to go to the first step of this demonstration. And you can see here, now this demonstration looks a little different, right? There's a red box way up over there in the upper left corner. And also there's this talk track now that says, welcome to the Workspaces demo. This is an example project which contains a devfile.yaml that defines a deployment environment by specifying the necessary tools, languages, runtimes, and other components for a GitLab project. It also has a Kubernetes agent configured. Next, we'll create a workspace for this project. And of course, it brings me to the next step in the demo, which is that red box to click on in that little hamburger menu. When I click on that, it brings me to the next red box, or my work. Now, if I click anywhere else in here, nothing happens, because again, this is not GitLab.com. This is a static screenshot of GitLab.com whenever this demo was created sometime in the past. And so this is completely magic, not GitLab.com. This works super well for a booth in person, a really short demo you need to show a very specific feature. This is not so good if you're doing an interactive demo over a Zoom or a webinar where an audience will pause you and ask you questions about that other thing over there on the screen because you can't click on it, right? This is literally a single track, a canned demo that is called a click-through demo. Okay, so as we click through this, I'm going to click on my work. And you'll see there's a little bit of a simulation there at the bottom where it looked like it was loading a page. I'm going to click the red box for workspaces. I ad-libbed the first delivery of this for you. I ad-libbed or improvised what to say. Again, click the red box, which is up here in the upper right corner. And again, if I forget where these red boxes are, when I press F2 and all this stuff disappears, the talk track and the red boxes disappear, I don't actually have to remember where any of this stuff is on the screen. I can just use the forward arrow key to move forward in the demo. Bloop. I'll bring the red boxes back by pressing F2. And again, I don't do any typing. I just click, and all the typing is done for me as part of the demo. See, my hands aren't even on the keyboard. I had to remember this little part here. Oh, I got to scroll down and find my project. Oh, and my project is named Example Node.js Express App. So I had to memorize those two things. That's not too hard, right? I had to remember, scroll down, and then the correct application is the Example Node.js Express App application. Again, if I get lost in my demo, I can just use the right arrow key and keep moving forward in the demo. So I'll just do that now. There's my right arrow key. Here's my right arrow key. You'll notice my mouse isn't moving anywhere on the screen here. Here's my right arrow key again. So this is fantastic when we're in person and I can just use my finger and point at the screen. Here I had to remember where to click, but it's not too hard to remember. It's the only clickable blue link that pops up on the screen after a few seconds. I can just use the right arrow key. It's just going to walk me through every stage of the demo I just gave you. You can see the talk track is changing as we go. So now we are in VS Code in the remote environment. 3 exclamation points. Now we will open up the server.js file and make some code changes to it, right? I had to remember that the next step of this, after I explained what Visual Studio Code was for a mixed audience of developers and non-developers, I had to remember that the next step was that Node.js. I improvised a bunch of words there. You're welcome to use your style of selling and your words to make it sound like it's coming from you in a confident delivery. So again, we just hit the right arrow here. You can see the red boxes on the entire screen, so there's literally nothing I can do wrong here. I can click literally anywhere, and it'll paste in and do all the typing for me. My hands were not on the keyboard. The talk track tells me open the menu at the top left. We will open the terminal to the container, start the server, install any dependencies if necessary, etc. I forgot to say those words entirely, but didn't matter, right? I'm going to click the red box for a new terminal, or just keep hitting the right arrow key. A terminal pops up. No surprises here. If I would have clicked right there, which I did during the first demo, I'm just going to keep hitting the right arrow key. Oops, can't start the server. Just keep hitting the right arrow key here. So do you see how absolutely foolproof this demo is? As long as I memorize the flow and the milestones throughout the demo delivery, which I can do in about 20 minutes. Probably take you less time because I'm just slow. But as you can see, I'm just using the right arrow key to advance. I can click if I want to. You'll notice that the server is running. We can now open another tab in a browser and test our changes. So here, that's a little tricky to find the little new server tab because that's so small. Same URL as our workspace. We need to change the port to 3000. I spent a little more time explaining that because that's a little strange to most developers. Most developers who do local development would put a :3000 on the end. So that little part, from my experience, I know that's strange. So I spend a little extra time explaining that. But we do that to keep your code secure, right? Because we don't want to be actually exposing port 3000 to the public internet. So instead, we keep your code secure by putting it right there. And the talk track says this is our application. We see the Workspaces docs link that we just added. Let's click it and test it. So again, there's the red box, or I can use the right arrow key. And boom, that is literally, it loads up the link to our documentation and it says end of demo, thank you. So there, I revealed all the magic. Wasn't too exciting after I've revealed the magic behind some of these demos, right? I want to show you a few other demos that we have. We actually have 5 more that I prepared for KubeCon 2023 last week that really show off some of GitLab's features in a narrow track. Some of these are a little bit longer than the Workspaces demo, but I just want to give you a flavor for some of the other click-through demos that are available up on that page that I showed you at the beginning. So heading back over to the clickable links here on this page, I'm just going to click the feature flags demo link. Again, opens in a new tab. I don't think people should look at my 74 tabs that I have open because they might distract them from the demonstration I'm giving. Here I can hit F2 again and make all the red boxes go away and make me look like a hero. But I'm going to let you see under the covers the magic here that's happening. This particular demonstration has 2 paths. So if I'm talking to a DevOps engineer or a developer who wants to know how to configure feature flags, that's this thing over here on the left. If I'm talking to somebody, might be a junior DevOps engineer, I'm going to probably click the box on the right to show how a feature flag is used. So I'm going to start with configuration on the left, just to show you how easy this is to learn these demos. Welcome to the feature flag demo. That is the talk track at the bottom of the page. I'm going to click configuration. Again, I can use the arrow keys on my keyboard if I get lost in any of this to just go to the right continues forward, left goes back. All right, to configure feature flags, that's what we're doing. We're going to click configure. I'm going to copy the API URL and the instance ID, so that's the API URL and the instance ID, and save them. And you'll need these variables later for the instrumentation of the feature flag. All right, to activate the feature flag, we need to make some changes in the source code. Let's open the source code file and proceed with the necessary coding. astute observers here will realize that this web user interface is clearly a very old one compared to the current GitLab user interface. We no longer call the code tab code, we call it a project, because repositories where code is kept in GitLab nowadays in 2023 are called projects. So you'll notice old web user interface. But again, if you're at a conference in a loud, noisy environment on a small screen, most people aren't going to notice that little difference in the click-through demo. I'm going to click repository. That's still the same nowadays. I'm going to change one of the source files in the main directory. Again, just going to go into this Java. I'm going to click the Java app controller. And I'm going to read the talk track. Here is a block of import statements of the code of the open source project Unleash. Let me get rid of me so you can see, which this is what GitLab uses for its implementation of feature flags. So, very common developer question. How does GitLab implement feature flags? Here's the answer right here. We use an open source package called Unleash. At least in Java we do, right? So if you get questions around that, you can actually show this demo and then answer questions like, what does GitLab use for feature flags? So we're importing a bunch of things for Unleash, specifically around line 15 where it says import fin unleash util unleash config. There's some other imports here for the package Unleash. Let me click the red box to scroll down the screen. I'll read the talk track. Here is a declaration of some variable that is needed for the instrumentation. We create the config object using these variables. The GitLab environment name is a runtime environment variable. The Unleash URL and Unleash instance ID are the values we copied from the user interface in the previous step. So what did I memorize here? I want to make sure I can use my eyes to scan for the GitLab environment name. So let's go see if we can find that here. Where is our GitLab environment name? Oh, look at that. It's on line 37, right down here towards the bottom. The other variables that they also mentioned in the talk track, Unleash URL, that's on line 36, and Unleash instance ID is on line 35. The thing I remember here for giving this demo, again, I can just use the arrow keys or click away, is that once I get down into the code, I know it's on the bottom third of the screen. And I can use my finger to point to the bottom third of the screen. And for developers, they'll say, oh, yes, that's where you created those objects. And for non-developers, they'll just say, oh, okay, Matt knows what he's talking about. Makes you look like a magician. All right, so I'll get rid of me so you can see, scrolling down the screen a little bit. Here, I'm going to read the talk track. The line unleash equals new default unleash config utilizes the config object to instantiate a new instance of the default unleash. Once all the variables and objects have been instantiated, which is a common thing in Java, utilizing the feature flag is as simple as an if-else statement. End of demo, thank you. Okay, so what do I have to memorize here? I have to find the line unleash equals new default unleash parentheses config. So let's see if we can find that. I see on line 47, unleash equals new default unleash config. So here, I just have to memorize that once I get 3 steps into the code, the upper third of the screen on line 47 is where I want people's eyeballs to go. So if I go back to here, I was looking at the bottom third of the screen. So that's step 1 of my code. Step 2 of my code, I'm still looking at the bottom third of my screen, lines 34, 35, 36, and 37. And on step 3 of looking at the code, I'm at the top third of the screen. So literally, to give this demo, all I have to remember is bottom third, top third. A dumb guy like me can remember that. So that's the end of setting up feature flags in code. Now, it's going to bring me back to the menu, and I can click on how to use the feature flag, which I think is a more compelling demo, actually seeing a feature flag in use. So here is a feature flag in use. Let's view the user lists of which users get to see this particular feature flag. We define 2 users in the list. which are uninteresting and don't make any sense to this demo, so I'm not even going to read their names because it doesn't matter. I'm going to go back with my web browser. In the demo application, we have introduced a new feature on our product page list where the product names are sorted in alphabetical order. So I have to remember, the old website has products that are not alphabetized, and the new feature flagged or testing in development or canarying thing will have my products in alphabetical order. So the big reveal at the end to make the magic happen is, does the web page have my products not in alphabetical order? Or do I have the feature flag and my products are in alphabetical order? I can remember that. So let's go see the feature flag in action. We'll go ahead and click edit here on the feature flags. Reading the talk track, which you can't see, there you go. The initial strategy utilizes a percent rollout type set to deploy 50% of available IDs in the production environment. I'm just showing you these things as part of this demo to show you what's possible. If we scroll down the page a little bit, another thing is possible. The second strategy targets the users in the prods in alpha order list, so alphabetical order list, the new feature, in the staging environment. And if I scroll down a little bit further, the third strategy targets specific users. In this case, we can define only one user and for the review environment. The important things on this page to memorize is that this feature flag, the are my products alphabetized or not, is applied in 3 different ways to 3 different GitLab managed environments. Wow, a lot of information here. So the things I want to point out to people are the environment is labeled right here under production. There's a horizontal line separating, which is easy to miss on a small screen or in a loud environment. The user list, to put this group of users, the prods in alpha order list, into the staging environment. So everybody in staging gets the alphabetical new feature that we're adding. And if I want to, as a developer, on my review app, I want to for sure test that new alphabetized list of features, I can say Thomas, let's say my name is Thomas, at gmail.com will get that when Thomas hits the review application. So the important thing here I'm going to memorize is make sure to point out that there are 3 different strategies in play here, all at the same time. So if you get questions around, can I canary 10% of my users, 20% of my users, 50% of my users in production? Yes, you can. That's the first thing. If you get questions around, I want the staging people to see the new features before it's been fully released to production. Can that happen? Yes, that's what's happening here, right? For users that are in a special list of users in staging, perhaps that's my testing team or my development team, that list of users in staging always gets this new feature, so they will be in alphabetical order. And then I can also, in my review app, force a particular user, Thomas, to see the new feature. So let's go check this out. We're going to click Deploy to collapse that tab so that we can then see the Operate tab. Again, it's easy to get lost in where to click on the screen when I hit F2 and all the red boxes disappear. So I can just use the right arrow, left arrow keys to advance forward by pushing the right arrow, go back a step if I get lost by hitting the left arrow. Here's Operate. I'm going to click the red box for environments. And here you can see GitLab is managing several environments for me. Oh my God, is that another GitLab feature I'm selling without selling it? It is. So I clearly have a production environment. I clearly have a staging environment. And it looks like our developers have, I think that says 6 or 8 review app environments. We're going to log right into the production environment because we are confident developers. So I click Open, which opens a new tab for me. And it's going to ask me to sign in. I can click here. Again, no typing because it's a click-through demo. We're going to let the robot type in Peter's password. Peter is not in any of those user lists, and Peter is not Thomas. So Peter's probably going to end up with the old site. And if I click Sign In, This shouldn't be a huge surprise, but if I look at the product list, I have product ID 1, 2, 3, 4. The first one is smartphone, then tablet, so STUVWXYZ, TV set, and then Android smartphone. Clearly, those product names are not in alphabetical order. This is the old site I'm looking at. There's no feature deployed for this particular user. The talk track even tells me what to say. It says, the product names here are not in alphabetical order. This means Peter got access to the current version of the application as half the users see. Click the logout button. Okay. Or I can just hit the right arrow key, which will do the same thing. I'm going to sign in as Thomas. Let's say I'm Thomas and the developer, and I want to see the results of my work in alphabetical order. Clicking sign in right there, and now the talk track changes. The product names here are sorted in alphabetical order, just as we expected. Let's double check that. Product ID 4, 1, 2, and 3. Android smartphone, that's A, S, T, U, V. Oh, look at that. They are in alphabetical order. The product names here are sorted in alphabetical order, just as we expected. The statistics are functioning correctly, and we can now be confident that 50% of the available IDs will see the new version. End of demo. That's it. So you can now see how the click-through demos, 1, are very easy to quickly learn, 2, can be delivered very quickly for an audience that is looking for answers to very specific questions, to a technical depth of maybe 1 or 2, and they're very feature-focused, right? We want to show off the best parts of GitLab actually in action. Let me show you a few other demos that are available as well as click-through demos, knowing all the things I've already told you about, all the gotchas about click-through demos. Heading back over to this list of demonstrations that are available, I'm going to click the CI overview demo. And again, I believe I don't want to distract my audience, so I'm just going to pull that tab down and then bring the web browser back up again. If I want to look like a real magician, I could full screen this, and then the overview demo looks full screen and is real magic happening, because when I click the demo go button, it looks like I have the opportunity to select from 3 different demos. One of the gotchas with this particular demo, I'm going to take it out of full screen mode so I can see you and myself, pulling it back out of full screen mode. One of the tricks to this demo is that there are 3 paths here I can take. And this particular demo, if I select the furthest left path, the developer flow, it will automatically lead me into the second demo, and it will automatically lead me into the last demo. So that's perfect if I have, say, an audience that's a mixed audience of middle-level managers or product managers, a DevOps engineer or infrastructure person, a developer type person, and I want to get the attention of all 3 to demonstrate how the team working together using GitLab's workflow or GitLab Flow can achieve an actual outcome and then reflect back on that outcome. If I'm only talking to a manager, I probably will skip over the other 2 because those other 2 demonstrations won't speak to them. Middle-level managers love seeing our value stream type metrics and DORA 4 metrics, which is part of this demo right here. All right, so starting at the developer flow, and I'll just simply read the talk track here that you can see on the screen, so you're watching me learn this demo together. For the developer flow, in this demo, I will make a simple code change and use the GitLab CI to build and test it. I'm going to create a new branch in the upper right-hand corner, just using the right arrow key so I don't have to use the mouse. I'll just get rid of the mouse. Here, mouse is gone. I'm going to create a new name for the branch. Again, no typing. I'm going to create the branch. Now I'm ready to update my code. I will open the file that I want to change. I'm going to go ahead and click the Java hello and the hello controller.java file. I'm going to open this up in the GitLab Web IDE. Again, this is going to look very similar to VS Code. And here I'm going to change the line 15 from hello from GitLab via Java Maven to just simply hello world. All right, again, reading the talk track. In a small change I want to make, I will commit the change and will create a new merge request for my change so that it will get verified and merged to the code base. The web editor shows me original code and the changes side by side. In red is the old code, in green is the new code, and I can write a little commit message down here. There's my commit message, hello world. I will click the commit button to check in my code. I'll just hit F2 so you can actually see the commit button. Bloop. So you can see the commit button down there in the lower left corner. I'll turn the help back on to keep learning. I'm just going to hit the right arrow key so I don't have to use the mouse at all. The merge request form. I will assign the merge request to myself and modify the title, add a description, but I leave the default title without a description. Sure. We'll just scroll down, submit merge request. My goal as a developer is to integrate my code as soon as possible. And if there is any issue with it, I want to get notified as soon as possible so it would be easier for me to fix it. I will open up the CI pipeline that builds and tests my change. GitLab runs CI pipeline on my branch for each commit, which builds the code and then runs automated test scripts, as well as security, compliance, and code quality scans. GitLab has native support for Docker, and it builds a Docker image for my code and pushes it to the built-in registry. I like to personally add in the talk track here that each of the vertical columns on your screen is called a stage. So this is the build stage, this is the deploy testing stage, this is the validate environment stage, this is a testing stage where we can see a number of GitLab jobs are running in parallel because the testing only depends on there being an environment running so that all of these tests can run in parallel and be done faster instead of other CI/CD platforms that run a number of steps in series. That'll speed up a lot of your code development and reviewing. We have a review stage, a DAST stage, or dynamic application security testing. So that's testing an application that's truly running. A performance testing stage and a cleanup stage so that the development environment's tore down. I like to add that talk track. You don't have to. I add that because a lot of people are confused when they see the screen for the first time and have a hard time relating the various stages vertically to the text version horizontally of the declaration in a GitLab CI YAML file stages, and then they see stages and build, deploy testing, validate environment, test, review, DAST, and they get confused. We're going from vertical in the web user interface to horizontal in a text-based definition file. Okay, back to the demo here. We're going to go over and look at the Docker container registry. So I'll click the green box or just hit the right arrow key. Production demos, Tanuki Tech page updates. We'll just click right there. And this is a list of the Docker images that are available for this particular GitLab project. And we can see that the Docker image right here was created for my particular branch. I have my own safe to run Docker image for my development. Neat. If anybody asks you where are the Docker images stored, there they are right there. How do I know which one I'm running? There they are right there. How can I tag them and manage them? They're all managed right here in the web user interface. All right, so let's head over to CI/CD pipelines so we can see how my pipeline is running. Note at the next step, you'll need to wait a few seconds until the pipeline will complete. Then you'll be able to move to the next step. So I'm just going to click on the running pipeline, that second item down there on the screen, the word running, back to our GitLab pipeline where some of the magic happens here in GitLab. As a developer, I don't have to worry about a local test environment. GitLab will deploy the Docker image it created via its native Kubernetes integration to a test environment. It saves me a ton of time. Open another tab in Chrome to check the email notification. So I want to show off that I can wait for the email to trigger a notification to tell me to come back to GitLab. In fact, we're just going to go ahead and open up my GitLab inbox. There's my Gmail inbox. I'm going to click on the latest email and look at that. I will be notified via mail that the build completion status, whether it failed or passed. You can also use clickable links right here, like that pipeline ID number. I could just click that link right there, which will open up a web browser and bring me right back to GitLab. This demo has me click back into the previous tab to continue going with this clickable demo. But either way works. Very powerful to keeping your developers using GitLab. Back to the talk track. Open the merge request. All the test results, security, and compliance scans will be shown in the merge request. And merge requests begin with a little bang or exclamation point. That's what that bang to hello world. I know I'm in a merge request several ways. Up at the top, I can see which group and which GitLab project I'm in. I'm in the production demos group, the Tanuki Tech project, and I'm working on a merge request, specifically bang to or exclamation point number 2, merge request number 2. Back to the talk track. Having all this info available to me in one place makes it easy to fix things if necessary or collaborate with my peers on that. We're going to click expand. Here we get performance metrics. So here's the speed that my change is either making to the page load time, the page size, the speed index in the page. If you're a web developer especially, when you make a change and if it makes the page load time go to 10 minutes, that's probably not a change you want to commit to production. I can find out what the performance is right here in the merge request as part of the collaboration. We're going to expand the security scan results by clicking expand and scrolling down. We're going to open up the license compliance report. This is a list of licenses detected that I use in my branch by dependent libraries I am using. If some of the licenses listed here are not approved by my license policy, I will not be able to merge my code. I will open up the review app. This is a live instance made of my branch. It helps to interact with the app after checking my changes to my branch and before merging into the code base. I can assign a reviewer to the merge request so that they will be able to review code changes. The code review tool is available in the changes tab above. The reviewer can see the changed code and comments and even add code suggestions that will be easy to apply by clicking accept suggestions. Here we're going to click down here. And that is the end of the developer workflow. So we can head over to the DevOps engineer workflow. As the DevOps engineer, my job is to make sure that GitLab CI is efficient, fast, and scalable, and that there are no blockers. And this team moves fast. The GitLab CI configuration is made via code in a YAML file. I love to work with YAMLs as they are human-readable files, which are easy to update and track. I will show you the .gitlab-ci.yaml file that I created for our team. Meet the GitLab CI YAML file, the CI configuration file. What I like to point out here for beginning users, remember those stages I pointed out earlier, those vertical build, deploy, validate, test with all those jobs, the deploy, review, DAST, staging, canary, all that stuff. Here they are right here on lines 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, and 66 for the review app, 67 for DAST scanning. So changing the order of my pipeline and keeping it up to date with how I want to test things, how I want to manipulate things as a DevOps engineer, that's all done right here in YAML. It's all done in text. And because this file is in as part of my GitLab project in with the code repository, this file is also revision controlled. So if I make a mistake with this file, I can always roll back to a previous version of the file. Back to the talk track. Jobs in GitLab run inside Docker images. This eliminates compatibility issues in the build servers and keeps them clean and secured. Let's add a job and specify an image for it. In our company, developers are allowed to change this configuration file as needed. This makes them happy and productive, and they can add build steps and automations on their own. I can track all the changes they do, the date of the changes, and the author of them. In change of configuration issues, I can quickly detect issues and fix them immediately. So we'll select a commit message here. Now I can see the configuration file changed in this commit. I will now open up the runner settings. I can expand the runner settings. GitLab runners are the actual build agents that run build jobs. We have thousands of commits every day, and my job as a DevOps engineer is to make sure that the team has available machines at all times so that any developer will get fast feedback on his commits, sometimes in minutes, instead of waiting in the pipeline queue for available build machines. I can use specific runners for my project, or runners that are available to all projects in a group, or shared runners for all projects in the instance. So the GitLab project being the particular application or repository I'm working on, the GitLab group being that parent group my project is inside of, and shared runners for all projects on an instance. So an instance would be my self-hosted GitLab instance at work, or gitlab.com. Those are shared runners that are available to all groups and all projects. I'm going to click the auto scale mode link, which is right up there in the upper right part of the screen. Our runners are configured to run in auto scale mode, which creates runner machines on demand. With auto scale runners, we always have the resources available to satisfy the high load in our company. During slow workload periods, auto scale runners removes the unnecessary resources and saves us a lot of money. This is the end of our DevOps engineer flow. As I mentioned before, this particular workflow from the DevOps engineer in the middle of the screen to the middle level manager type workflow just flows right from one into the next. So here's for a mixed audience of both a DevOps engineer, so an infrastructure person, and a manager type person who wants to manage the team's performance, perhaps a technical lead, perhaps project manager, perhaps a middle level manager at a company. All right, so we're going to click Analytics. As a middle-level manager or team lead, my role is to make sure that my team is able to deliver planned work and resolve any blockers. The CI/CD analytics helps me see the big picture and the team's productivity. It produces statistics such as overall pipelines and success ratio. Scroll down to see more graphs of different periods. Multi-selections options here. 1, the longer path, value stream analytics and security reports, or 2, the shorter path, security reports only. I'm going to hit F2 here, and we're just going to look together at some of these reports for just a moment. I can see in the middle of my screen here the number of pipelines run. That's what pipelines are. I can see some dates at the bottom of my screen. Looks like September 13th, September 15th, September 17th, September 19th, 21st. Looks like it's every 2 days. So this looks like a daily resolution of maybe a month span, because I see about October 13th on the right, September 13th on the left. So here's the last month of all pipelines that have run in blue. That's why blue is taller than red. And successful pipelines that have run in red. This might give me an idea. If you can see here, we ran very few pipelines, but most of them were successful. Here we ran a lot more pipelines on this day, and a small percentage of them were not successful, but a large percentage of them were successful. If I add a new junior team member that does not understand our code base, this might be an indication when that team member has started picking up work and running pipelines for their development environment. You might see more failed pipelines. For example, if someone is a junior developer is trying to develop something, they're not familiar with the code base, and their pipelines start to fail. And that's probably a good thing, because then you know that your junior developer, oh my, that's probably a very good thing, because your junior developer is now actually trying things and trying to contribute to your team. All right, moving on, hitting F2 to see the talk track again. Let's take the longer path of value stream analytics, because we're particularly proud of the value stream analytics. All right, value stream analytics measure the time spent to go from an idea to production, also known as cycle time. Remember the old manufacturing industry? Cycle time for each of your projects or groups. Value stream analytics displays the median time spent in each stage defined in the process. Value stream analytics is useful in order to quickly determine the velocity of a given project. It points to bottlenecks in the development process, enabling a manager to uncover, triage, and identify the root cause of slowdowns in their software development lifecycle. The planning stage shows the time from the previous step to pushing your first commit. This time will be added automatically once you push your first commit. The coding stage shows the time from first commit to creating the merge request. The data will automatically be added here once you create your first merge request. The testing stage shows the time GitLab CI takes to run every pipeline for the related merge request. The data will automatically be added after your first pipeline finishes running. The review stage shows the time from creating the new merge request to merging it. The data will automatically be added after you do your first merge request. And the staging stage shows the time between merging the merge request and deploying code to the production environment. We think that the value stream analytics, or VSA metrics, are so important for a team lead or project manager or a middle level manager to understand the answer to the question, why does it take my team so much time from the moment I request something to the moment it actually shows up in production? The moment your team starts using GitLab and starts making commits on this project, those value stream analytics become available to you so you can better understand, is my team coding too large a feature and taking a long time from first commit testing to final commit and a working pipeline? Or is my bottleneck later on in the development process where my team has a working feature but is hesitant to deploy it to production because you're not making use of that feature flag demo we did earlier or something else? You can see how the value stream analytics are an easy answer to the question, where is my team using their time, and how can we get better, faster results from the people and the processes that we have in place. Maybe if your team is hesitant on that last step to release features into production, it's time to talk about getting rid of some of the change management stuff that your company is presently making your developers fill out forms and paperwork, and move more towards a mature operation where you're doing continuous deployment. Maybe there's some other impediment that you as a manager can help manage and get out of the way of your developers to reduce that amount of time that your developers are waiting to deploy to production. Again, how do you manage something if it's not being measured? You have to measure it. And once you have measurement and metrics around it, you can then decide for yourself as a manager how to improve your team's performance. All right. I walked you through a few of the demos today. There are so many more that you can go through and learn for yourself. Again, hitting F2 to make the magic happen, and hitting F2 again to bring all the red boxes and the learning mode back on these click-through demos. In future videos, I'll show you the rest of the demos and walk through them reading the talk track, watching me learn with you these demos, and delivering them confidently and perhaps adding a little bit of extra technical mumbo jumbo to the talk track as we go. So you can see my style and how I deliver some of these demos, and then you can find your own confident voice and your own style on how you like to deliver some of these click-through demos from GitLab. Scott, thank you so much for the time today on Building Pipelines webinar. I'm excited to have our partners make use of these click-through demos. I hope that they are an easy way to show off some of the benefits of using GitLab and make your sales motions a lot easier for our partners and your customers. Back to you, Scott.